this could be okay if you wanted to just do half here. Notice, by the way, see how that matches up very nicely with that edge. But what I'd like to show you is how do we go about editing something that we made maybe incorrectly in the beginning. So if you look at this, you could probably imagine what I want to do here is I want to mirror this. I want to mirror this feature down to there. But, oops, I built the part slightly wrong. I built it all off of this plane here going out this direction. The original pad came out, what was it, 0.4, this direction. And that doesn't work so good. So I would have to do either a couple things. I could make a new plane and I could have it be offset from that plane a certain amount to get it right here in the middle. By the way, do you guys know what I'm talking about? Why I'm worried about this plane thing? In order to do the mirror, I need to have a plane right here in the middle that's going to allow me to mirror this element perfectly over the middle of this whole length right here to get this to fall right here on this edge. I need it perfect. So I could add a new plane, like I said, or I could go, you know what I should have done is I should have padded this out symmetrical across that mid plane. Can I go back in time and edit this? Throughout the rest of the videos, I'm going to try to do more stuff like this to try to show you why you want to design well and thinking about editing in the future, because if you don't ever edit anything, then maybe it doesn't matter to you. But when you go back to edit, if it's a pain and you don't get what you want, then you should have made it somehow differently. So what did I do here? Well, the first thing was this pad. So let's double click on this, and it goes back in time to when we made the pad, and you can see it's 0.4 across that plane. So this is a simple edit, right? It's 0.4. And here's my symmetrical button right here. So I hit this and now it's 0.4 in both directions. Well, I'll just simply change that to 0.2. Hit OK. And now you end up with a couple small problems, right? So what are we going to do with this? What's happening? Now let me tell you a story also about why is it red. It's red, people would say, because it's an error. And that would be slightly incorrect, okay? If you look through your preferences, this is all, CATIA, going back 20 years. Red means update. On older computers, if you would make a change, you might see it flash red for just a fraction of a second, and then it would be the typical, grayish bluish color. That red is, I'm trying to, CATIA is trying to calculate the numbers and rebuild the model, right? And so until that happens, it turns red. The reason people say red means error is because if you have a bad error that allows it to not be able to update because there's something broken, it gets stuck in that update color. Okay. For all, intent purpose, the way that we're looking at it, you could sure think that red means error. Okay. But I just wanted you to understand that it's trying to update, but it can't do it. Okay. Now, how do we go about fixing this? What are we going to do here? Well, I'm going to close this. It does tell me some things, but I want to show you. This has a lot to do with those links that I've been talking about a lot. But other times it's just because something you just did caused a change. Maybe you got rid of a face and a fillet that was on an edge of that face. It can't function anymore because the face is gone. So if you look over here in the tree, the pad is okay. The pocket is okay, but there's something wrong with the groove. And if I hit the plus sign here, you notice there's a little exclamation mark down here. If you can see that with the sketch, there's something wrong with the sketch also. I'd also like to show you this. If I open up the sketch, I have the axis system, right? The H and the V that we've been flipping around, geometry, lines and points and planes. These are all the lines and points and planes of the construction elements and the triangle that we drew. And then we have all the constraints that we made in there, which you notice a lot of those are having errors also. And there's this thing called use edges. And inside of here, these are different, things that we used to make a projection. Edges we've used edges, you see? But if you see use edges, just think that somewhere inside of that folder, if you will, they're going to be the projections you've made. Okay. So what's going on? Well, the quickest, fastest way to look at this, well, you could look down here and you could say, well, there's a coincidence that doesn't work anymore. There's something's parallel to something. So what did we change? Well, we took this that was flat here and we made it even. So we'll double click on the sketch, and what we're seeing through here is primarily this edge right here is okay. That's the projection. The measurement, okay. So look at our line right here. Our line got stretched up to here, and our original construction line we made that was on, remember how I snapped it to horizontal? Instead of snapping this line to the horizontal, if I snapped it to maybe the face, or I made a projection of the edges here and snapped it, then this red line right now, it's red because it's stuck in an update cycle. This line, we wouldn't have an error right here. It would have followed, let's say, this surface up here. So I could have planned for this, but that's kind of the whole point of this, is you can't plan for everything, and you have to know how to just fix it. So I honestly, I did not look at this before. I mean, it happened just as we were doing it. So I'm looking at this fresh-eyed, seeing what the issue is. And again, if I would have made this on the surface rather than the horizontal axes, it probably none of the errors would have happened. So what do I do? How do I fix this? You could go, oh my gosh, I don't know, let's just delete everything and start over. Or you could say, oh my gosh, let's just delete the sketch. Let's delete the groove. Let's delete everything and just start over, right? And that's, a lot of people do that. But what I would like you to try to do when these things happen is kind of analyze it and think, okay, well, what's the problem? So I've got right here a coincidence, and that's coincidental to something. If I click at the other side of the coincidence comes up. So you get right on that coincidence and you double click, and it says that 2D point is stuck to the horizontal direction. That's at least one problem with this. So we need to get rid of that. So we could delete this coincidence. So that's probably the easy way. You know, if I wanted to, I could say other selection, and I could stick it to something else, but I don't want to do that right yet. So I want to show you that I pick this, I hit delete, and look at that. Now, it basically just fixed itself, but I want to explain that it wasn't magic, what just happened there. It was stuck on the horizontal axes. This triangle was trying to be on the horizontal axes, but also be up here at the top of this point, because we stuck it to the top up there, but it couldn't. So it got stuck in an update between both states. That one part of the line, remember, you saw up here. Okay, one part of the line you saw up here, and then this line right here was stuck on that horizontal line, and it can't know what to do. Now, a lot of times if I delete that coincidence, it might just sit here, and then I go ahead and reconstrain it to the thing I'm supposed to constrain it to. But imagine that this problem right here is holding this triangle from snapping up to the top of this point to make this value here that's red, the 0.05, that's not correct either. It can't do it. It's red. It's trying to make this line 0.05 from this tippy top to down here. It is not really this long. It's just saying, I can't do this. I'm trying hard to do this, but because of this red right here, it won't let me. So in this particular case, when I delete that constraint right there, that coincident constraint, holding it on the horizontal, this line and everything immediately jumps right back up to there. So I'm going to do that again. And all is green again. And if we open up our sketch and we look through here, a lot of the stuff is gone. Okay. Now, let's continue on with some of the rest of this. If I exit out of the sketch, everything updates. Now we're okay. If you had more problems, if some of those problems that were yellow in the sketch, the exclamation mark, if you exited out and they remained an issue, you would get a warning again would pop up here, and then you'd have to go back into the sketch and continue working on it, okay? So we obviously have one more problem at least left. All this is good. We've got our plane system in the middle there. We could mirror this down, but obviously we don't have a hole going through. So what the heck happened there? I would like to throw this out here. When you fix a problem, and you haven't done this a lot before, it can be very stressful, and you fight your way through it, and you're like, oh man, finally I got it. And then when you get to the second problem, you end up getting a little bit tapped out and you feel like, oh, man, I hate this thing. I'm just going to delete it and start over. Well, just relax and just watch. Here, this is a perfect example of a different type of error. It is functioning. It's not red. It's not trying to do an update. It believes that everything is fine. I look through the tree here. Everything's fine. What makes the hole? Well, that pocket makes the hole, and you might have just seen what's going on here. Inside the sketch here, you could open it up like I just showed you. Everything looks fine. So what's the problem? So you tip it upside down. Oh, there's the hole. After you see this, maybe now you might understand what the problem is. Think about that for a moment. Why is this like this? And why wasn't it when we had the part up on the other sketch, when the sketch plane was up here at the top? Watch. If I go over here to the sketch that's kind of gray and I show it, we made the sketch on that plane. So you see what's going on? We said, well, we made a sketch here and then we said, pocket it up to last in this direction. So if I want to fix this, I go back to the pocket. I could change the sketch plane. I could change the sketch to be up here on the top, or I could come over here to the second limit and say up to last the other direction. And I feel that in this case, that solves the problem a lot better. So I hit OK. There you go. So a couple things here. We have the red that showed an error and a giant window that popped up and said, hey, there's a problem. You should fix it. We looked through the tree. We saw a bunch of yellow exclamation marks and, very much indicated that there was a problem. But we also then see problems that arise that don't create an error for us, and you have to then look through to make sure that everything is as you believe it should be. So those are at least two critical things about troubleshooting a broken part. That there's the obvious stuff that gives you an error, and the other stuff that works fine, but it doesn't give an error, but you have to sort it out. You have to look for it, right? So I would just sort of spin this around, look around, check everything out, make sure that it still looks like it's supposed to. Fight the urge to say, this is too much stress, I'm just going to redesign it. Because sometimes you cannot do that. Sometimes you have to fix the part. You have to edit a part and get it to work out right. So now that that is all done, we can get back to the last bit on our design, which is mirroring that chamfer. This is so typical that one small thing you needed to do caused a great amount of pain, a great amount of effort to get it to be fixed, and now you can go about that simple little thing you want to do. So we're going to mirror this. We're going to mirror this groove feature right here. I come down to the bottom here, I pick the mirror tool. It's going to want to mirror the entire body, the whole current solid. So pick this and pick the groove. Okay. Somewhere down the road, we might talk about why that defaults to that, because there's a good reason for that. Then you have to click up here to the mirroring element, and that's going to be this plane right here. And then you can hit OK. And now we have our chamfer on both sides, and there is our nut finished. Go ahead and add a color to this, save it, name it, save it, and then we can get on to assembling.